Phanerosis, his eyes as lamps of fire. The eye is a symbol of intelligence, for the light of the body is the eye. The extent and perhaps the degree of intelligence is indicated by the number, and its character by the expression of the symbol. Daniel does not record the number of the eyes of the glorious man of multitude, but tells us that their appearance was as lamps of fire, which would give them a flaming and therefore terrible expression to those whom they will neither spare nor pity. Ezekiel 5, verse 11. The symbolical number of these flaming orbs is revealed in Zechariah. In chapter 3, the Eternal saith, Behold, I will bring forth my servant, the branch, or Messiah. For behold, the stone which I have placed before the faces of Joshua, or Jesus in Greek, upon the same stone shall be 7 eyes, verses 8 and 9. And they shall rejoice and see the stone of separation in the hands of Zerubbabel, even those 7. They are the eyes of Yahweh, scourging in all the earth. Chapter 4:10. In this testimony and its context, the Eternal Spirit sets before us several representative men, Joshua and his brethren, and Zerubbabel, the former the high priest and his household at the time of the restoration from Babylon, and the latter governor of Judah and of the house of David at the same crisis. They were constituted a symbolical group, and were so regarded by their contemporaries in Jerusalem. As it is written, they are men wondered at, or Anshai Mophai, men of sign. That is, men representing others besides themselves. But as the things to be represented by them required other symbols than those furnished by the human form, priests and governors and deficiencies are supplied from other sources. Joshua and his brethren represented Messiah and his brethren in name and office, as did also Zerubbabel as the governor of the house of David, and as a group of sign men they symbolized the kings and priests of the eternal power of the house of David, occupying their places over Israel in Messiah's times, commonly styled the millennium. But it was required also to represent that the Spirit servant, the man whose name is the branch, styled in the New Testament Jesus Christ, was the same who had been styled by Jacob, David, Isaiah, and Daniel the stone, that the precious gem in its brightness and splendor was to blaze forth in the glory of the Spirit, that as a consuming fire he and his companions were to scourge the wicked. In short, that Israel was not to expect redemption by their own prowess, apart from the man of the eternal power, according to the word of Yahweh to Zerubbabel, saying, Not by multitude nor by strength, but rather by my Spirit, saith Yahweh Sabaoth. Chapter 4 and 6. To represent these requirements, a stone was placed before Joshua, by which action a relation between them was established. It is afterwards seen in the hand of Zerubbabel, by which also he becomes identified with it. Hence the stone comes to represent at once the high priest and governor of Judah, a priest upon the throne of the house of David, which indicated a change in the constitution of the kingdom of Israel. In the hand of Zerubbabel it is styled the stone of separation, by which we are taught that the shepherd, the stone of Israel, will be a purifier of his nation from all alloy. For he is like a refiner's fire, and like fuller's soap, and he shall sit as a refiner and purifier of silver, and he shall purify the sons of Levi, and purge them as gold and silver, and they may offer unto Yahweh an offering in righteousness. Afterwards shall the offering of Judah and Jerusalem be pleasant unto Yahweh, as in the days of old, and as in the ancient years. Malachi 3, verses 2 through 4. But the nature of the case demanded that intelligence and multitudinous should be symbolized in a stone. To answer this, 7 eyes are placed upon it, with the inscription, I will remove the iniquity of that land in one day. These eyes, we are told, are the eyes of Yahweh. That is, the eyes of the Spirit, self-styled Yahweh. Now, John in Patmos saw the same vision, and in his description of what he saw, uses the words of Daniel and Zechariah, which he blends together. He says there were 7 lamps of fire burning before the throne. He then tells what they represent, saying, which are the 7 spirits of power, or of God. Grace and peace were sent through John to the 7 ecclesias from these 7 spirits in concert with Jesus anointed. Revelation 1, verses 4 through 5. Who in chapter 5, verse 6 is symbolized by a lamb that had been slain. Now the description of this lamb identifies it with the stone of Joshua and Zerubbabel, and with the eyes of Daniel's man of the one spirit. The slain lamb had 7 horns and 7 eyes, which horns and eyes are or represent the 7 spirits of power sent forth into all the earth. Chapter 5, verse 6. The symbolical number is 7. This is a sign number, signifying more or less. That it does not signify less than 7 is evident from other symbols of the Spirit. The 4 living ones of Ezekiel and John are symbols of the Spirit, multitudinously manifested. For whither the Spirit was to go, they went, as the appearance of a flash of lightning. Ezekiel 1, verses 14 and 20, and Revelations 4, verse 6. Their actions are identical. Therefore the Spirit and the living ones are the same. That which is born of the Spirit is Spirit. Ezekiel tells us that what he describes was the appearance of the likeness of the glory of Yahweh, or of the eternal Spirit. It was not the thing itself, but its similitude, the reality pertaining to the new order of Elohim, to Jesus and his brethren. Now Paul teaches that we are invited to the glory of God through the gospel, and Peter, that he hath called us to his eternal glory. Hence the 4 living ones that John saw are represented as celebrating in song their redemption by the Lamb, that they might reign as God's kings and priests upon the earth. The living ones are therefore spirit symbols of the sons of God in glorious manifestation. Their eyes, however, are not limited to 7, but are numberless. For their whole body, their backs and their hands and their wings and their wheels were full of eyes round about. Ezekiel 10, verse 12. This is also John's testimony, who says, the 4 living ones were full of eyes before and behind and within. And they had 6 wings, which identifies them with Isaiah's seraphim. We conclude then that the symbolical number 7, in the case before us, is representative of a great and innumerable multitude, a multitude which no man can number, because its amount is not revealed. The eyes of Daniel's symbol are identical with the eyes of the cherubim, each eye being the representative of an individual saint. In the aggregate, they are as lamps of fire, whose mission is to slay the beast, and to destroy his body, and to give it to the burning flame in Daniel 7:11, and to take away the dominion of the rest of the beasts, verse 12. Or as John expresses it, to burn Babylon utterly with fire, to torment her adherents, and the kings of the earth with fire and brimstone, and the sword, to bind the dragon, and take possession of the kingdoms of the nations in all the earth. Revelations 18:8 and 14:8 through 11, 17 verse 14, 20 verse 2, and 11 verse 15. All of which is implied in the words of Zechariah that the 7 eyes as lamps of fire are the eyes of Yahweh scourging in all the earth. This concludes this section.